everyone, I'm Dan Albers, and welcome here to the Big Guy Sports Podcast here on USBN Sports. And again, we're in the studio, which we love to have our studio. I think this might be the third guest that we've had. Third or fourth guest. And Steve, a guy that's joining us now is somebody I know that you've known for a very long time. I've just got to know him through hearing John Raymond and all the stories, and obviously knowing from high school sports and that. And Jack, and I tell you what, he just a great overall accomplishment, what he's done and what he's done for the game of high school sports. No question. And I'll tell you that we've done over 40 podcasts now, Danny, and this is probably the one that I've known since birth, I think, and pretty much. But I've known Jack basically all my life, and what a great guy, and a superb baseball player. Right. And obviously, we're going to talk about his accomplishments as a coach, but even a better person. So I'm really excited he's here to talk to us. Yeah, I am too, Jack. We're real proud. So joining us is Jack Kuzniczci. Jack, thanks for joining us. We really, really appreciate it, and just an honor that we get to talk to you. Like, for us, we've always heard about. I mean, Steve's known you for a while, but I've heard about all you guys back in the day, and I didn't get to see you guys play, but it's just an honor to sit here and talk to you today. Well, with the guys you've had on here before me, it's an honor for me to be here because those were the big league guys, man. I feel like I'm not quite up to their standards. I don't know about that. Yeah. I don't know about that. Well, so take us back to the days of growing up in Anderson. Because we always give what side did you live on? The Summit side, what side? So talk a little bit about where you grew up in Anderson, what it was like growing up as a kid. Well, I grew up on Forest Lake Drive, and I was right next to the YMCA, and our neighborhood was great because it was almost all guys. I mean, it was just all boys, and we always had sports going on all the time. Steve knows I got 2 older brothers that are 16 months older than me. Yeah. I had a cousin that was raised with me, was 3 years older than me. So it was pretty wild around our house a lot of times with all those boys around there. It's a lot of fights among brothers and cousins and things like that. But the Lee's boys, I don't know, some people who've been around, they will know who those were. Danny Aaron, who was a few years ahead of me, was a good athlete. Yeah. Walt Potschmidt, who was a little bit even farther ahead of me. Those guys. Did he have a brother, Bill? I'm not real sure. Okay. Now, Walt, I ran into him. He actually lives in Madeira now. So, really? And that's where I live. So I ran into him a few times too. Well, that's good. Yeah, it's pretty good. So Jack, I mean, obviously I know this, but just refresh us going back to as you were growing up, and you talk about in your neighborhood and stuff like that. And obviously you played baseball. Was there any other sports that you played as well? I played basketball in junior high, and I think I scored 3 points the years I was there. Did you play at Anderson? I played at Anderson. Who was your coach? Dan Bartholomew was there. It is. So, again, he was my 7th grade coach, and he was just awesome. Yes, he was just awesome. I mean, I was that guy on the bench and went to practice and tried hard and everything, but I sat back and watched. Well, back then it was Timmy Hall, Nick Tarpoff, Rick Becker, Rick Elliott. It was a pretty good class of basketball players. Yeah. So you got into high school and you're playing baseball. Talk about that experience, because this is when it was all still one high school. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize this, but in my class there was 720 kids in my class. How about that? The class behind me had 960. Oh my goodness! That was Rich Dotson and Reed and those guys. So and it's funny. And Steve, you probably don't remember this because you were too little then, but there was only a JV team and a varsity team. Mm-hmm. So as a freshman, you had to go out for the JV team. Right. It was really hard to make it. Yeah. And so I went out as my freshman year, and I was 5'2" and 105 pounds. Oh wow! I was the smallest guy, and I wasn't very fast. And my brothers went out, and they were a year older than me, and they both got cut. And I made the team. Oh. So if you can imagine that house about that weekend. Wow. And I always tell the story, after the cuts, I was out, and I always threw the ball against the wall, and I was way more active than my brothers as far as. So I was throwing the ball against the wall, and my brother Steve came out and was mouthing off to me, and I just said something to him, and he came up and punched me in the face. And blood was spurting out of my eye. And I started laughing at him because, and so my brother Bob, his twin, jumped on him, was mad because he punched his brother. So they're fighting on the ground. My mom comes out with a baseball bat. She's got one of those little, those yellow wiffle ball bats. Yeah. And she's beating them trying to, because there's a mom trying to break up 2 16-year-old boys fighting. And all the neighbors looking out the window. And that was just a normal day at the Kuzniczci household around that time. That is funny. So, Jack, I want to tell a story here that I know Jack should remember this. But, Danny, you talk about what it takes to be great. And obviously Jack went on and he played baseball not just at Anderson, he went on to play baseball at UC, but some of the things that you think about what it takes to be great and all the things that you do when no one's looking.
So let me tell you this quick story that I have vivid memories of Jack is. If you remember back in the late 70s, there was just massive snowstorms in the winters. And Dad had, in our garage, had built a tarp in the ceiling and had a tee made. And he was involved with Post Street Team Baseball and had access to a lot of baseballs. And I think he had that out there for me and Brad and Greg to practice on, and I think he wanted me to be a switch hitter, maybe, I don't know. But Jack got wind of this, and Dad probably told him, and I can remember sitting at the dinner table there, and it would be like a foot of snow on the ground, and there'd be a tap on our kitchen window, and there'd be Jack walking by himself in and asking if he can go into our garage and hit 300-400 baseballs. And the garage is not insulated, and he we just hear the thump, and and years later I started thinking, that's how you become great.
Absolutely.
All the things you do when you're not looking. Do you remember that, Jack?
Well, that was actually when that happened. That was after I had signed my pro contract.
No kidding.
I was at UC, and I signed with the Expos, and your dad told me you had that there.
Yeah.
And so I was over there constantly hitting because I knew I was going to spring training, and you go down there, you're competing against some pretty good players.
Oh yeah.
So you wanted to be ready for that. But I actually had a ball and a rope in my basement, and I had hung up a big bed sheet, and I'd hit that ball and a rope into the basement into the bed sheet too.
Wow.
That's exactly what it's all about. And saying that Steve kind of mentioned is that you ended up going to UC. Talk a little bit about that whole UC thing and the recruiting process. Did you get other schools that you were involved, or how did that all? Well,
first of all, I walked on at UC. I did not have a scholarship there.
Okay.
And I remember going down there, and I'm looking around, and you as an athlete, you have some confidence. So I'm looking around thinking, man, I can play here,
Yep.
And so I worked there, and I ended up starting my freshman year there.
At
third base.
Yep.
I had a 19-game hitting streak the last 19 games of the season. Ended up hitting 358 that year. So it was a pretty good year for me.
Yes.
And then that summer I played for Hal Pennington. I think I told you guys about him earlier. And I think the team I played on, we had like 11 guys signed pro contracts off that team.
Wow.
So it was a really good team. And we played, went real far. We went to a national tournament in Pennsylvania. My sophomore year I came back, and I was a lot bigger and stronger. I had worked out really hard. Ended up hitting like 383 that year, and then I was the most valuable player on the team, which was kind of a nice honor to have.
Sophomore year.
Nice. My junior year, I think I had, for me, what I thought was a letdown year. I hit 324, and that was a bad year for me. Compared to my other years, that was a little bit down a little bit. Then my last year, I led the team in hitting again.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because the year after I got done, Timmy Campbell transferred in, and he led the team in hitting.
Yes.
So 3 out of 4 years, we had an Anderson guy lead the University of Cincinnati in batting average.
And he took over third base.
Yeah. So he took over third base. And actually, my sophomore year, I played shortstop.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we didn't have a shortstop that year, and they just switched me to shortstop for that year. So.
And did Nicky Tarpoff play there too?
Nicky played there. Nicky was mainly a pinch hitter. He had one more year of eligibility after I left because he started at Marietta.
Oh, okay.
And he came back and sat a year.
Okay.
And then his senior year, I think he played a lot, but I was not there that year when he was his senior year.
All right. So kind of go back here a little bit. Back in high school, playing for Jim Neiman, and what that was like, and you had some pretty good talented teammates too.
Oh, yeah. We were pretty good. The class in front of us had Donnie Adams.
Donnie Adams.
They had some pitching in that class. Steve Sotier was a really good player. Tom Sexton could play, and then, we had Rich and Timmy the year behind us.
Yep.
And our class, I think, had more players than those guys. We didn't have anybody like Rich Dotson. I mean, Rich was just a freak. He was just so good that he was just off the charts good. But I think there was more players. Steve Smith. Steve went and played at UC for a while. Nicky went to UC and played for a while.
Yep.
I went there. Rick Becker was on that team, and he went to Southern Mississippi on a basketball scholarship. And then,
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then he ended up playing baseball at Western Kentucky.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he played. Yeah,
how about that? I knew that.
Yeah, and then he got drafted by the Cardinals. I don't know if people know that.
Really?
Out of college, he got drafted by the Cardinals in the 29th round. I played golf with Beck today.
No kidding.
So yeah,
that's funny.
We need you to get him to get on here with us. We're trying.
He would. I mean, I talked to him. I said, "Why don't you come with me tonight?" It's actually kind of fun.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, Rick would love to come on here.
So how was that? Talk about Coach Neiman and Coach.
Well, Coach Neiman. First of all, when I went out, like I said, I told you before, I was 5'2" and 105 pounds. And, I smallest, weakest guy in the team. But I was diving for balls and going crazy in the gym. And I had one day we went outside, and I had a really good day hitting. and I could always hit. So that's one thing that. And Watterson saw it, and he kept me. And if you imagine, as a coach, that would be hard too, to cut the two older brothers.
Yeah,
keep the younger one. Team.
Yeah,
But so I went there, and I wasn't very good my freshman year. And I think it was just because I was undersized and weak, and I hit probably 215 on the JV team. And another funny story, my sophomore year, I had grown 8 inches and 40 pounds.
Oh my goodness!
So all of a sudden I was able to compete.
Had your growth spurt, yeah.
So during the tryouts, they had talked about possibly bringing up the varsity as a sophomore, and so I guess they had some discussions. So back then they'd put a cut list on the board, and they just put the names of the people made the team.
Yeah.
So I had first period, I go in, and my name's on either list. So I'm thinking,
you're done.
I got cut. You know, I mean, what did I do wrong? And so I'm down, and I got Mr. Neiman first period. So I'm sitting in the locker room, kind of in the corner, my head down. And Brian Lindsay was in the class, and he ran, he talked to me, and I told him what happened. He went up and got, Mr. Neiman. Mr. Neiman came down and said, "Hey, you're not cut. This is the mistake we made." So,
wow.
But it was kind of scary. For 10 minutes, I'm thinking, probably a half hour, I'm thinking that I'm cut from the team. That's
what a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I remember when you got drafted.
Yeah.
And being so excited for you. And, we all know that sometimes you got to have a little luck involved and everything's got to go your way. But unfortunately, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you break your thumb or something?
I hurt my thumb. They made me a catcher, and I had never caught before. Okay. And, you're catching those guys, throwing 95, 96 miles an hour. And if you don't receive the ball right, it hits your thumb and pulls your thumb back. Oh. And so they made a cast to put on my thumb. But, when you try to hit, you can't hardly hold the bat. It's hard to hit. So I didn't hit, so I got released. And that was the end of that, because, pro baseball is such it's a business. It's not really a sport at that level,
Right.
And when, you go in there and I signed my pro contract at the Skyline Chili Parlor.
No way.
On Beachmont Avenue. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
It's funny because I got a call in December. And it was Terry Boyle, scout for the Expos. He goes, "I just got permission to sign you." I said, "Oh, great." He goes, "Well, I'm going to be on that side of town. Why don't you meet me at Skyline?" So I said, "Okay." So I brought my brother Whitey with me.
Yeah.
And so he was 16 at the time, so it was a big deal for him to come and watch me sign the contract. And this guy had a booming voice, so we're at Skyline, and he's yelling, "I signed this one kid," and everybody's looking over. So my bonus was a 3-way and a Coke. So I didn't. That's a good deal. And I think that's why I didn't last very long too. So I think if they had a bunch of money investment, and I didn't hit the very beginning, then I think I would have lasted a little bit longer. So
that's it's funny because Steve probably knows this. My favorite team growing up was the Expos.
Yeah.
I love the Montreal Expos. So back then, I'm trying to even think. Did you ever get any experience with all those guys like Carter? Any of those guys?
Terry Francona was on my team.
Oh, really?
And Andres Galarraga. I mean, he can. You think you're a pretty good hitter and you think you're a pretty good player, and all of a sudden here's this guy 6'4", 3 inches taller than
monster,
me, and stronger than me, and way faster than me.
Right.
I mean, he was really fast too.
Yeah.
And this, and it's probably wrong to really compare myself to him because he had a few years where he hit 50-some home runs in the big leagues. So, I mean, so he was just a great player. He's the most talented player I saw when I was in spring training. The big league club was actually in West Palm Beach. We were in Daytona Beach when I was there.
So you still got any Expos gear or any of that stuff?
No. If I'm thinking back, I probably should have snagged a few bats or something when I went out there. But I never, when you get released, you don't think about those kind of things.
That's true.
At least I didn't. Some other people did.
As we said earlier, that you're coached not only at Madeira and Walnut Hills, you coached at Clermont Northeastern too. But talk a little bit about what got you, or when did you know that coaching was going to be your that you were going to do that?
Probably when I didn't get to play anymore, because I held on to that dream for a little while, and I actually got an offer again when I was like 25 to go play in an independent league, but they wanted to pay you $600 a month,
right?
And and that was before taxes were taken out. And by that time, I had a job, teaching by that time, and I said, "Nah, I can't. I just got to give up on that dream because." If you're 25 going in the minor leagues, you're probably not going to make the big leagues.
Right.
I think Art Howe did that when he was like 24.
Art Howe.
He ended up making it.
Yeah.
But that's a very rare occurrence when that happens.
Yeah.
And I went to Northeastern in my first couple years. I coached baseball, basketball, and I was the JV coach. And basketball, I think I was the freshman coach.
Okay.
And I actually coached against Frank one year.
Oh,
he was a freshman coach at Anderson then.
Yeah.
Really?
So I coached against him, in a tournament. And then later the varsity coach resigned, so I ended up taking over there, and I was there for 2 years. And I think we were like 2 or 3 games over 500 the 2 years I was there.
Okay.
And then what happened was they couldn't pass a levy up there.
Oh, yeah.
So they had to end up cutting some people. And Marge Wiesenhahn, who is Bob's Wiesenhahn's wife, got cut. She was in phys ed for 18 years. Oh, wow. So I'd been there 7 years and got cut. Oh, so I was like the low man on the totem pole.
Wow.
You know, so there was 3 phys ed teachers cut, and they all had more years experience.
So what'd you do?
Well, that, you know, it's funny because my wife's brother was at a wedding reception, and Dr. Hockney, who was he was the superintendent of Madeira schools then.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law, who's Mike Haney, which you might know, he teaches at Marymount.
Tremendous guy.
He's my brother-in-law. You know.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He called me up and said that he was at a wedding reception, met Dr. Hockney, Madeira needs it. So I got on the phone, called Hank. And so I called Hank Omies, who was he was the football. And I said, Hank, I said, you know, I'm not as crazy as I used to be. So you know, like 3 days later, I had a job at Madeira.
Okay.
And then what happened was the baseball coach there retired right as I got there. I mean, that year. So I ended up coaching my first year there.
Okay.
So I was there for 23 years, but I coached 21 of them. I didn't coach the last 2 years because I went and saw my son play.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
That is a good story.
Yeah, it was kind of really lucky to. Yeah. My brother-in-law was at that wedding reception.
Well, they don't get much better than Mike Haney.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He coached my daughter in soccer.
Okay.
And for Cincinnati United.
Okay. Just
a tremendous guy.
What got you then? How did you get to Walnut then?
Well, what happened was I coached in the summer for the Cincinnati Baseball Club, and Jeff Brokamp, who was the principal at Walnut Hills at the time, his son Bobby was on the team, and he just liked my style, and he said, hey, would you be interested in coming to Walnut? And I said, well, you know, I'm not sure, you know, but I was coming up on my 30th year of teaching, and they had just changed all the retirement qualifications and everything. And it used to be all the teachers would go 35 years, but then when they changed all the rules and everything, it behooved you to go out after 30 years.
Right.
So I said, you know, and I said, but I'm not really ready to stop teaching. You know, I still had kids depending on me a little bit, you know, and he said, well, I can get you a teaching job. I said, well, sounds kind of good to, you know, maybe get my pension and get a teaching job also. So he got me like on a 60% contract there. So I taught 3 classes a day, and then I became the baseball coach there, and I was there for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And didn't have one season, obviously the COVID season we didn't play.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had 6 pretty good seasons over there, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, you could tell you kind of turned that program around pretty quick to be a contender.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about, you know, because before I went there, they had never had a 500 season in league, not one time. Mm-hmm. And I was there 6 years. We played 5, and 4 of the 5 years we were 500 or better. So I felt pretty good about
awesome.
that.
Well,
and this year we made a pretty nice run.
And you beat Turpin twice.
We beat Turpin twice this year, and they were a lot better. So, although Anderson got us twice.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they got us twice. You know, but it's all about pitching matchups. You know, we played Turpin, we had our 1 and 2, and we played Anderson, we were 3 and 4.
Yeah,
and, you know, we're a lot better at 1 and 2.
You know, I think we're looking at somebody, Danny, that probably should be coaching a lot higher than what he's done. I mean, I'm sure you're loving what you did, your career. I mean, here's a guy, Danny, that had over 500 wins.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. It really is. I saw the list of, I think it was, I don't know if it was the active coaches at the time that had the wins, and it was just amazing the names that were on there. We talked off air before we came on. Was the coach from Elder? Right. That was what? It was. What is he? 600.
Mark Thompson's got 600. Yeah.
I mean, it's just an amazing accomplishment for what you've done. You should be very happy of, you know.
Yeah, a little side note to that. We actually got Elder at Elder this year. We beat them 14-2 at Elder on their senior day.
Did you really?
So it's kind of a nice win over there.
So there's 1,100 wins right there on that field.
Wow. And they went to the state finals.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yeah, we were pretty happy about that. We had started a kid that only threw 1/3 of an inning the whole year. And he ended up throwing 6 innings, and we mercied him in 6 innings. So
wow, that's crazy.
And he hit 2 guys in the first inning to drive in their runs.
It is coaching. It is coaching.
I don't know about that.
So one of the players I want to talk to you about is one that's got to be near the top of your list of all the years that you coached and all the wins you had. Is guy that played for you at Madeira, and Andrew Benatendi. Yeah,
I mean, he was really special. He came out as a freshman and started on the varsity team.
Yeah.
I think he hit .517 his freshman year on the varsity team.
Are you kidding me?
No. He played 4 years of varsity baseball.
Yeah.
Hit over 500 all 4 years.
Yeah.
Struck out 12 times in his career. Think about it, 12 times in his career. His senior year, his sophomore year, we went to the state final game. Mm-hmm. And Andrew was 8-0 as a pitcher. A lot of people don't know that, but he threw like 87 on the mound.
Wow.
And, he wasn't real big. He's only 5'9".
Yeah. Right.
He could fly. I mean, he could really run, and he had a great arm. But his hitting was just ridiculous. And his outfield play, I mean, he would make your jaw drop almost every game by something he would do.
Yeah.
And I think his senior year, he had like 570 with like 13 home runs, like 38 stolen bases, like 50 runs scored. And, he set the record in the state of Ohio for runs scored in a career by 35.
No kidding.
Wow. 35 more than the next player closest to him.
Yeah.
So, and they thought he had a hit record, but then somebody went back and found something. Somebody had like 3 more hits than him or something like that.
Wow.
It was a guy played for the Reds from Hamilton. I forget the guy's name.
Lewis.
Mark Lewis.
Yeah, I think he found out that they didn't have the records on him or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was. I mean, I had heard about him, for years before that, and I mean, how long did you know leading up to high school that he was going to be coming to play for you?
I knew, because I do when I was at Madeira, I was actually in charge of the athletic events in junior high.
Okay.
So I would, be in charge of the gym to make sure things went smooth and everything. And, he was on the basketball team. He was a really good basketball player.
Steve knows that.
Yeah, so I knew that very well.
He scored like 1,700 points in basketball.
And a lot against Marymount.
Oh, yeah. I think he had a 42-point game there, if I remember right. He was really good.
We're not going to talk about that because I'd already taken my starters out, but go ahead.
Yeah, he was really good at everything. And like I said, the one thing that a lot of people didn't know was his senior year, his mom was going through some health issues. She had breast cancer. She had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And, it's really hard for a kid, 17 years old. He was so mature. And, what he did a lot of times that year was the kids have senior lunch, and they get like an hour for lunch. And he went home and had lunch with his mom almost every day.
Wow.
So if you can imagine somebody that mature most 17-year-olds don't realize that, my mom's not going to be here. This is a pretty serious situation.
Right.
But that's the kind of person he is. He's just a great person.
Wow. Well, so with all those wins that you had, was there any wins that stick out to you more? I mean, you said you made it to the state final game with Andrew. Was there any other wins?
Well, we won the state in 99, so obviously that game's going to stick out for me.
That's right.
And then 2002 and 2007, we were in the state Final Four and lost both those games. 2011, we lost in the state final game. And my son and Andrew were both on that team. Mm-hmm. We lost to Canton Central Catholic, and they got 5-0 on us. We came back and tied at 5-5 and ended up losing. We had first and second, nobody out, and didn't get the bunt down. They, in the 6th inning, I think bottom of the 6th, got an infield single, got the bunt down, and got a bloop single to beat us. I mean, it was just, if we had executed a little bit better and got the bunt down and they didn't, we'd probably win the ball game.
Wow.
So that was a tough loss. That for sure was a tough loss. The memorable wins, 2007, we were in the first round of the tournament, and Blanchester was beating us 4-2. We had 2 outs and nobody on. We came back and won that game, and then we went to the state Final Four that year. So
wow.
It was kind of a...
Right at the end there.
We had a freshman up. You're thinking, and he had a great at-bat. He fouled off like 10 pitches and walked. Oh. And that brought us around at the top of the order, and we ended up scoring.
No kidding.
The runs and winning the game.
That's pretty cool.
We had a walk-off win. Walk-off win. So that was...
That's all a part of Jack's memory, Danny. Yeah. You remember all that?
I could tell you the batters, but I don't think we want to go that far.
I believe it.
That's good.
All right, so I kind of mentioned earlier that we were, lifelong friends and family, and we had brothers that played baseball together. But talk a little bit about your family and where they're at now and what their involvement was with you when you were growing up.
Right. My brothers have been very supportive of me. We all played baseball, and my dad and your dad actually took over the American Legion. Yeah. And really, and my dad told me a story one time that the American Legion was really in debt when they took over. And they switched things around, and they got the same uniforms. You remember the American Legion teams always had those white uniforms with the red? I do. So what they did is they made them turn in their uniforms at the end. He said nobody made them turn in the uniforms, so they got in debt, because you had to buy uniforms every year.
Wow.
So your dad and my dad got together and did that and turned it around. They also coached together, and they won the city championship in AA.
Yeah, Green Valley, baby.
That was down at Riverfront Stadium, I think. Down at Riverfront Stadium.
So I have a picture, and you're the only guy that's not in it from my family, and your family.
Oh, really?
So I have a picture in my basement that I can show you. It's a team photo of the Green Valley, and both your brothers, Kurt is there as a bat boy, Brad's there as a bat boy, I'm there as a bat boy.
Was Jean in that picture?
No,
my little sister?
Unfortunately she wasn't, but she was at every game at the Firehouse, and then obviously our dads were the coaches of Green Valley with, like you said, Steve Sotier and some of those guys, and Tim
really
Daugherty and Jeff Campbell, all those guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And let's see. I mean, well, they played for a long time. They didn't play college baseball or anything. You know, they got cut in high school, but they continued to play for a long time.
Yeah.
Kurt, my younger brother, played at Turpin.
Yes.
And then he went on to play at Siena Heights College for 1 year, and then he ended up leaving, and that was the end of his college career. So he played 1 year at Siena Heights College.
Yeah.
Jean, you know, she was a good athlete. Her freshman year, I think she led off and played shortstop for Turpin, and they were the city champions.
Yeah.
Jean was really freakishly good athlete, to be honest with you. For a small, she was really tiny, but she was crazy. I tell a story about, you know, because she had 5 older brothers, so she was a lot tougher than most girls. And so we're having a family reunion one time, and my brother and I are sitting there talking, and we look across, it was at our house, and we saw my cousin had a kid 6 months older than her, a boy, grabbed her by the throat and started choking her and threw her on the ground. And, you know, I'm 17, she's 5. I'm not going to go over and stick up for her, you know.
Yeah.
And so we look, and she jumps up and punches the guy like 6 times and just lays him out. And me and my brother were just jumping around laughing and going crazy.
She can hold her own.
Yeah, she was something. So in fact, she lives out in Arizona right now. So.
Oh, is that going to be near where you're going to go?
Yeah, she lives in Scottsdale right now.
That's great.
And then Bob's still in town. Steve's in Florida. Kurt is in Dayton.
Okay.
So.
Well, I was going to say, Jack, talk a little bit. I know one thing that, you know, it's important to Steve and I, and you know, having a very supportive, you know, wife and family and all that stuff. Talk a little bit about your family. I know you've kind of mentioned some of them now, but talk a little about that, your boys, and what's going on with all them.
Well, my wife, I've been married to my wife now to be 34 years in July. So,
oh wow.
My daughter is my oldest. She lives in Indianapolis right now. She's 32 years old. She played sports in high school. She played soccer, basketball, and softball. Mm-hmm. Cody, my son, is the middle one. He was 29 yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So he is he played football, basketball, and baseball at Madeira, but did not play basketball senior year. Baseball was the number 1, football was number 2, and basketball was the number 3. So he decided that senior year just to play the 2 sports.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be a good thing. He got recruited for football by, you know, some Ashland and some Division II schools. 6'5" receiver, so he's a pretty big receiver. Then my youngest daughter, she played softball, and she was a diver. So she had her own little niche, you know. She did something nobody else did. So.
And are you living in Madeira now? Or?
Yeah, we just sold our house. It's, you know, we're still waiting for the appraisal and all that stuff to come in, but we've got the offer, accepted the offer, and done the work and everything you have to do to get it sold. And we're looking at maybe July 9th going out to Arizona.
And living for good.
Hopefully, happily ever after. You know, we got a house being built out there.
Oh, really?
That's great.
It should be done in September. We're
good for you.
Right next to a mountain, so we got a real nice mountain.
And you said you're close to Goodyear, so Steve and I can come visit you. If,
we're the next exit away from Goodyear.
So
wow,
there we go. We'll come visit. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a podcast live from Goodyear, Arizona.
Take it on the road.
Yes, we can do that. But do you still talk to a lot of the guys that you graduated with, or in high school?
You know, Rick Elliott, Rick Becker, and I were really, really close. And you know, it was funny about whenever Facebook started. We didn't see each other for long. I mean, because we all had our families. Rick moved to Nashville, and then he went to Atlanta, and Beck had 5 kids. I had 3 kids, and I moved to Madeira. And you're busy, and so when Facebook came back out, we all got back in contact. And last year, in September, Rick Elliott has a mountain home down in North Carolina. We all met down there for a weekend and played golf for a weekend. Awesome. And played cards at night. It was kind of like old times.
Man, that's great.
That's perfect.
Kind of neat. It was always Beck and I against Sturgeon. Paul Sturgeon was the other guy, but we'd always play him cards and things like that. And you know how it is when you get 4 guys together. It's pretty competitive.
And you always revert back.
And we actually, it's funny because we lost a game, Beck and I, and we usually beat him in cards. And I said that's just another one of those rare things that happened in 2020.
Blame it on that. That's right.
That's great that you still keep in touch with those guys, and it's guys that Steve and I always heard about. We've always heard about those guys. Back and and we're doing a Anderson football documentary, and I got to interview Nicky Tarpoff, and man, I tell you what, that's another great guy.
Nick and I were teammates on Midland together, so we were, and Anderson and UC, so we were teammates for a long time.
Yeah, Nick is a great guy.
Yeah, great guy, and then Johnny Raymond, of course, always helps us out with everything. He's he gave us some of the bios on you guys, kind of let us know what's going on, but it's always great to hear from you guys. So let's get into you've kind of mentioned a memory that coaching and everything, but do you have one as when you were playing, like a high school memory, and then maybe one in college, and then maybe you've already probably given one as a coach, but if not, then just give like your favorite teacher or
Well, Mr. Neiman was my favorite, and that's basically, he inspired me to do what I'm doing. So I love Coach Neiman. He was just awesome. The first game I can remember probably was my junior year. We were playing Coleraine. It was always between us and Coleraine for the league championship back then. Mm-hmm. And we were losing 4-1. The guy was pretty much mowing us down. I think the guy ended up going to Indiana as a quarterback, so he was pretty good athlete. And we started off the 7th inning, bottom of 7th, and Rich Dotson led off with a home run. And he was our 6th hitter. So, that's his sophomore year. And so I think Steve Smith batted after that and hit a line drive single. And all of a sudden, things just started happening. So I came up in the bottom of the 7th and singled, and Donnie Adams scored. It was a walk-off win.
Wow.
And we ended up beating them, and we won the league. We beat them at Coleraine too. So we won the league by 3 games. Now, the really weird thing about that, we ended up ranked 3rd in the city that year. McNick was 1, Coleraine was 2, and we were 3.
No way.
And we'd beaten Coleraine twice and finished 3 games ahead of them in the league, and they ended up ranked in front of us in the city poll.
Yeah. It's still political with all the stuff they do now.
Now, the next year, it's just the opposite. We're playing Coleraine at home, and Timmy Campbell hit one in left center field. And back then, there was no fence in left center field. It was just the parking lot out there. And if it went in the parking lot, it was live. Right. So once you got in the parking lot, you're going to get a home run because they're going to slip with the spikes. And so Timmy hits one in the parking lot, hits a car tire, bounces back to the outfield, gets a triple and doesn't score. His next time comes up, he hits one halfway up the telephone pole, hits the telephone pole, comes back, doesn't score. We lose 3-2.
Oh my gosh!
Can you imagine losing a game like that? That's how we lost the league championship.
Wow.
Yeah, 3-2.
Yeah. We had always heard about Neiman and what a great coach he was. Obviously, he was really knowledgeable,
right?
But he was gone by the time we got there.
Yeah.
Well, we had him in middle school, right? I remember him in middle school.
No,
being a gym teacher.
Was he in
middle school? I do remember him being a middle school gym teacher for a little. I don't know if that's right. I could be. I thought he was, because why I remember that is because of didn't his son or grandson play basketball at UC? There was a Neiman.
Joe Neiman.
Joe Neiman.
Yeah. Wasn't that his? Because I remember him talking about
There was a relation to that. Yeah.
It's his brother's name is Joe Neiman, and that was his son.
His son, right.
So
there was a Vicky Neiman who married a guy that moved to Madeira, so she had a kid in Madeira. So and in fact, it was funny. She mentioned she was trying to get her Uncle Jim in UC. I said, Jim Neiman? She goes, yeah. I said, I love Jim Neiman. So she just was, you played for him? I said, yeah. But I got one more memory, though. From high school.
Give it to us.
East-West High School All-Star Baseball game. And back then, it was kind of like the All-Star game in the major leagues. You really wanted to win. Right. It was kind of, now the All-Star games are just
don't matter.
So I was playing in the All-Star game, and, we had Pat Taylor, Leon Durham, Jeff Savage, Nick Tarpoff, me, and Pat Byrne. They really tried to win, so they got the guys off the best teams. Now they pick somebody off every team.
Right.
So it was really competitive. So we're playing in a game, and Al Drews was a reporter for the Enquirer. And I was kind of playing around. I said, hey, Al Drews. He looked at me and goes, I said, this is going out. I want him to hit a home run. So the next day in the paper, it said, Kuzniczci, a constant threat at the plate all day, and a consonant threat to spellers and broadcasters, called his own shot.
No,
and it said in the paper the next day. So I'm like, wow.
That was in the Enquirer?
I forgot all about it because I was just kind of playing around, you know. And then I hit a home run, and so it showed up in the paper the next day.
That's a great memory.
That is really cool. Hey, I'm gonna give you a memory of mine in baseball. I was horrible in baseball. And it's going to go back to this guy right here.
You're not telling this story.
I am. I'm going to tell it. So I was horrible, really horrible. Man's playing center field, and I'm playing right field. You know what he did to me?
No.
Because we're good friends, right? So we can
snuck in.
He told me, He told me in. Went flying over my head. That's the kind of friend I have right there.
It was really funny.
Well, I'll tell you another situation with me and Bob. I was umpiring. And, you usually don't have a kid younger than the team playing umpiring. So my brother Bob stole second base.
Okay.
And he got thrown out, and I called him out. And he jumped up and said a few words to me with, some cuss words. So I threw him out of the game. He started chasing me around the field and fighting me.
Where was that at?
I was at Sacred Heart Seminary.
Sacred Heart Seminary.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that is just awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, well, that family, there's craziness all the time.
Oh,
in that
that's
family.
great.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah, they could never take us out to eat. I mean, we just,
Did you ever have a favorite college moment?
You know what? The game. There's a couple games I remember in college. My sophomore year, we were playing at Florida State, and I was usually like second or third in the team in stolen base. I was never one of the fastest guys, but I prided myself on being a good base runner. And so we're playing Florida State at Florida State. It's night games. There's 5,000 people there, and I thought I had the pitcher timed up, and he came to the same count every time when he went to his stretch. So I was going to steal second base. And I went, and he didn't throw home. So he stepped off the base, came after me. And he came at me, and I slid in the first base. And, it was a close call, but it was a call that I thought the umpire should get right at that level. And he called me out, so I said something to him. He threw me out of the game.
Oh.
Now, I'm our third hitter. Tim Deffinger, our left fielder, is our fourth hitter. So they got all these fans going crazy, yelling and screaming, and how college fans are. They go crazy. So they told me that I had to leave the field. And Coach Sample wouldn't let me leave the field because he said the fans were too crazy.
Yeah.
So the game got held up for like 10 minutes. So finally they put me on the press box above Florida State's dugout. So I go up there, and they were really nice. They said, "You want a hot dog, Coach?" So all of a sudden I hear this scream, and I look down the left field line, and their bullpen catcher came out and sucker punched our left fielder.
No. Oh, my gosh.
So I wasn't running out. By the time I got out there, the fights all broke up and everything. So I'm our third hitter. He's our fourth hitter. We're winning the game.
Oh, wow.
We ended up losing the game. And it was funny because when we went down for the Metro tournament at the end of the year, the old Metro 7.
Metro tournament.
And he would, every time he came up, they played the Rocky theme for him. When he came up
No kidding. Wow.
I tell you, there was one game in college. It was funny because we were playing at Kentucky. And I had a date with a girl in Cincinnati. So she was in Kentucky. I said, "Hey, we play Kentucky on this date." And I said, so I wrote her a letter. I said, "Hey, why don't you come out to the game?" So I go there, and it's one of those days in the athlete you feel great. You get up there. So I I was 5 for 6 with 3 doubles and a home run. Nice. And my one single was a line drive off the left center field fence, where the guy in second ran back to tag up and only ran to third base. So I would have had a fourth double.
You could have,
So I was thinking, oh man, this is good. So I look around for that girl after the game, but she wasn't there. So.
That's a good impression right there.
Thinking, I hope she's here, but she wasn't there. So things worked out pretty good for me. I'll say that because I know my wife's going to watch this pod. So.
They worked out very well. That's right. Good save.
No, that is great. But I'll tell you what, Steve, it's been just awesome catching up. We say this to a lot of guys. We could probably talk for hours.
Yeah.
I mean, we really could. I mean, we can go on. I mean, with Mark was the same way last night when we talked to him on our previous podcast, and we could have talked forever with him too.
Oh yeah, Reed. I mean, I would love to talk to Mark Reed again because he was a lot of fun to be around.
Good guy.
The athletics at that time, because you think about McNick had Tabler and Canard during that time. So you go to those basketball games back in those days, and you couldn't get a ticket sometimes.
Well, it was just Anderson and McNick back in the day, right?
It wasn't. There was no Turpin, and there was, like I said, we had 700, and the next class had 960.
That's crazy.
So if you can imagine going out for the teams, there was really good players walking the halls that just couldn't make the team.
Right.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
It was really, we won the Hamilton County American. That was a great baseball conference back in those days. Yeah. I think off our team, Rick Becker got drafted. Rich Dotson, obviously, all everything. I signed a pro contract. Steve Sotier went and played pretty high-level college. We had a few other guys go to UC and play. Yep. John Harmon, who was a pitcher, he was the only guy on our team with a losing record, got signed by the Braves because he was 6'4" and could throw hard.
Wow.
So we had 4 guys off that team sign pro baseball contracts.
That is crazy.
And actually, the year before that, we had Mark Roush, who didn't make the team until senior year, signed a pro baseball contract.
So you know what? That's if you think about that, I don't think people know all this. No. You know what I mean? No one knows about all these guys back that were drafted or whatever. When I'm doing all this football stuff, I didn't know a lot of the guys that went on to play at a big school.
Right.
I think it was Bergdahl played at Rice or something, and I didn't
Johnson
know.
Played in Indiana.
Yeah, I didn't know all that, and that's just amazing that all you guys have accomplished that. I mean, it's like Steve said, it's kind of a rare thing to basketball. They've had one Division I player since '82.
Well, listen to this. My knothole team. I played for a really good knothole team. We were called the Midland Jets.
Okay.
Brian Bergdahl is our catcher. He went to Rice.
Yeah.
Our outfielder, one of our outfielders, Bobby McPhillips, played at Purcell. He ended up going to Clemson as a wide receiver. We had Nick Tarpoff on that team. I was on that team. Pat Byrne, who was the quarterback, McNick, went to Bowling Green, was the captain of the team there, and Jeff Savage was on that team.
Wow. Jeff Savage.
So you think about guys on that team. That's a knothole team.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Wow.
You got 6 Division I athletes off a knothole team.
How rare is that?
That is crazy. But it's been awesome. We really appreciate you taking the time. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully, like I said, we'll make our first road trip out to Goodyear, Arizona, and do a live podcast.
I'll be out there. I'll be out there exercising,
soaking up the sun.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. So for Dan Albert, Steve Ellis, and Jack Kuzniczci, you've been listening to This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you next week.